brakes on the car. Brakes to make you a superstar. Brakes to win and brakes to lose. But these here brakes will rock your shoes. And these are the brakes. Break it up, break it up, break it up.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie and TV discussion in the multiverse. I'm your host, Adam Portress, and I'm joined by sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
What the hell is this thing?
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
It's WandaVision.
I thought we were going to go. I thought there was a little something extra on there, but it wasn't. It was just like, that's
I got
the show.
2020 WandaVision. I see Wanda everywhere I look. 20 at a time.
Man, you guys might not know this, and I know that the majority of you don't. But Bruce's wife has been posting up because 2020 was, eye doctor, 2020 vision, all that kind of stuff. Posted up a new little cartoon about Vision every single day of the entire year.
Not the Android Vision.
No, I don't know medical terms.
Visual acuity.
There you go. I'm just like, I don't know the right words.
If she posted like a Marvel Comics Vision reference every day, I'd have to renew our vows or something.
We went to Niagara Falls to recommit because my wife was all about the Vision.
Boy, they sure have churched up Niagara Falls. I saw a picture from above last night. Boy, it looks like a rock concert there right now.
Really?
It's great.
Were you like floating in air?
No, I was watching a football game.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were like in an airplane and it was flying low and you looked out the window, and I was wanting to hear more about this.
No, the Goodyear blimp was going over. It's football. The Goodyear blimp's going over the Niagara Falls, and they got all these like awesome this awesome light show happening underneath the water now.
But you gotta admit that story would be 5% cooler if you were on the Goodyear blimp.
It would totally change the way I saw Superman 2 if they had that.
I just thought somebody slipped him peyote and he was just floating over Niagara Falls. Look at this, guys. It's amazing. Niagara Falls is way
Sweet
different.
Shanzi was a hot air ballooner.
It's on the resume. Well, yes, so this week we're doing...
We prefer to be called blimpers.
This week we're doing something a little bit different here. What's going to follow is our debut episode of our new podcast. Yes, we've got another podcast. For those of you counting, I think this is podcast 78 at this point. But we're doing WandaVision 30 questions. So what's going to follow after this little discussion right here is our full first episode. And you can check that out pretty much wherever you find podcasts. And if you can't find that podcast wherever you normally get podcasts, do me a favor and email me at wandavision30q@gmail.com, and we'll try to make sure it's pointing in the right direction. But I think we're on most of the major ones. So we're going to do all that. But first, we do have to say a big, giant thank you to all of our supporters over at patreon.com/HMP. There you get the pre-show, post-show, and, of course, the Dinger Zone. And this week, the Dinger Zone is actually going to be more WandaVision stuff, things that we didn't cover in the main episode here. Surely there'll be some things that we missed out on. We'll be covering those over in the Dinger Zone. So if you would like to check those out and see all the other great things, patreon.com/HMP and support today. We really appreciate that. Now, if you can't do that, the second best thing that you can do is run over there to the old iTunes, drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger. Been a long time since this.
It has. So this one comes to us from Poozmate. That's POOH' mate. Poozmate, entitled Favorite Podcast, 5 stars. And it reads as follows. I love this podcast. I love to listen while I'm at the grocery store shopping, and the HMP guys always make me laugh out loud, which can sometimes cause the other shoppers to give me strange looks. If you like superheroes, you will like this podcast. Listen and join the Patreon group for the Humdinger and pre- and post-show, which are some of my favorite parts. Look at that. There's even someone else selling you for the Patreon even afterwards, man. So, Poozmate, we really appreciate that 5-star review. You too can drop a 5-star review on iTunes, or even if it's not iTunes, it's whatever, aggregate thing that you're listening to. Check us out there. And of course, like I said, WandaVision 30 questions is coming up here in just a second. Go out and rate and review that thing as well. That also kind of helps us climb up in the ranks, and we appreciate all of you fine people. Well, boys, we don't have I do want to say real quick before we get into it, We don't have an actual Bruce comic book connection this week because Bruce has done something even better than that. Bruce, tell us a little bit about your special video.
Oh, yes. If folks go to my YouTube channel, which I've actually started making videos for in the past 3 weeks or so, you'll see a video titled Wanda and Vision. And it's all about the relationship the two have had in their comics from when it started to when it ended and where it might be going. And then I had a little bit of speculation about WandaVision. Now that a couple of episodes are out, you can judge me harshly as to how accurate or inaccurate my speculation was. But man, I would love for people to go check out that Wanda and Vision video. And you know what? While you're there, maybe subscribe to the channel. People have been really nice to do so. I've kind of doubled my subscribers since I first asked, but I got a long way to go. So everyone helps, and I appreciate it.
And we'll, of course, put the link in the show notes, not only for that specific episode, but for Bruce's channel in general. So do click on those and subscribe today. We really appreciate it. So let's get into it. Here it comes, the first episode of WandaVision, 30 Questions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to WandaVision 30 Questions, a show where each week we ask 30 questions about the new show WandaVision on Disney+. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, he's a man lost in space and time, sweet Shanza Kovacs from the internet.
My mind wanders while I'm watching this show.
And our own brave little toaster, Bruce Leslie.
Finally, a TV show I can watch that simulates a TV show.
Oh, you know what? We've been asking for it for years, and finally Disney has delivered on a show that is also like shows. So
I hate it when I'm watching a show and think it's real life. I love it when a show lets me know it's a show.
Winking right at the camera the entire time. Well, if you didn't listen to our teaser episode, let me clue you in a little bit about what we do here. We on all of our 30 question show, of which we have several, we ask 30 questions of a particular television program. This time we're doing the first season, episodes 1 and 2 of WandaVision, available now on Disney+. So there'll be spoilers here throughout. The questions could be just about anything, about anything. So let's go ahead and get it started with question number 1. So ask you guys, what, if any, expectations did you have of WandaVision going into it?
Bruce, you answer first because I'm more interested in your take than mine.
Okay, so the expectation, like I clearly had expectations, but they weren't crystallized terribly well. But I did expect it to be trippy, and I expected it to be told in somewhat of a non-linear fashion. And I expected the tone of each episode to shift as the episode went along, which I haven't seen in the first two. I mean, there's a little bit of a shift at the end, but what I mean is instead of an entire episode being like an homage to Father Knows Best, I thought we would jump back and forth between, color and black and white, depending on what was going on in the conversation or the scene. But instead we get kind of like this episode is an homage to this show from beginning to end.
Now, with me, I only saw a couple of images and stuff, and maybe we'll call it 10 seconds worth of video at some point leading up to this. I really had almost zero expectations. I kind of stayed away from, as much marketing and advertising as I could. I don't believe I saw one trailer for this at all. I'd seen a couple of pictures and stuff because it's the internet and it's tough to get away from at least pictures and whatnot. But I came into this with a very, very blank slate, other than I knew that it was going to be, kind of trippy and stuff. It's obviously leading into the, Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness at some point. So I figure there might be some trickery going on of some sort. But I really had no expectations going into this.
For me, I have never liked the characters of Wanda or Vision. I think that they are the weakest characters in the Marvel universe, in my opinion, because they are far, far too powerful and there's no rules to what they can do. So I that was already strike one. But I don't know if you guys remember or not, when we were kind of discussing watching the show in the first place, I remember saying the words, it's Marvel. Like I'm going to give them a pass for anything when it comes to that doesn't sound like a great idea for a show, but it's Marvel, so let's see it.
Yeah.
What I was really hoping for was that it was going to be like the sitcom-y thing, but there was an air of menace to the whole thing. That's really what my expectation was. And we didn't get that. We don't get any of that at all, in fact. And so, like, whether or not like my expectations were met, I'm going to say yes, although I expected more.
And I don't know if now's a good time to kind of call a shot for what I'm still expecting. I was expecting it going into it, still expecting it now. I'm kind of expecting it to end with a massive game changer. Like, I'm kind of picturing this series might be where we get an inverse of the M-Day storyline from the comics, where instead of no more mutants and all the mutants magically go away because Fox had the rights to them, I think in this show we might get some kind of inverse like that, where she does something that brings mutants into the universe. So, kind of turning that on its head.
Clever.
I do like that as a conceit for that.
Me
because
too.
That is something that we've been thinking about with, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the acquirement of Fox and everything, how and if in any way they're going to, merge these things together. We have some, reported supposed hints that might be coming in the next Spider-Man film. Maybe this all, can, in one way, shape, or form dovetail into that as well. Who's to say?
Bruce, do you think that's going to happen during the Brady Bunch homage or the Three's Company homage?
Well, here's where. Well, I don't know if which of my questions made it, so I don't want to step on this question if it comes later. Since it's going to be linear, it'll probably be during the most recent homage, which will be like The Office or Parks and Rec or something like that. I mean, I don't know. Are they going to have a good play? Like, what's the absolute most current sitcom they could spoof that ABC has?
Is Ugly Betty still on the air?
The Goldbergs.
Yeah, the Goldbergs on ABC will probably be, which is weird because it in of itself is kind of a spoof of things we're nostalgic for. But yeah, it'll be the last episode, so it'll be whatever the most current sitcom they spoof is.
Modern Family.
Question number 2, Bruce.
After watching the first episode, my 10-year-old son asked the perfect question. What was that supposed to mean? So how would you good gentlemen answer that question for my beautiful child?
I can't wait to hear Sean's answer.
Okay, you want me to go?
Yeah.
Here is my thought on the whole thing.
Okay.
Is they had a lot of really smart people who are really good at their job had a really good idea, which is that everything kind of went to hell for Wanda and Vision during Infinity War. So in order to bring those two characters back into the universe, you have to have some sort of like fracture happen. And she's trying to mend it piece by piece to make things happen, like go back to one. The problem is that when they have this really good idea, these very smart people got lost in their own crap. So like, oh wow, we can really recreate what these Leave It to Beaver style sitcoms were like, or Bewitched were like, or whatever. So let's do that, and then we'll just parse out information just in like a 30-second increment in a half-hour show. So what everyone is waiting for, we're going to make them wait at least 9 episodes for, to get to a point where it's satisfying. So they absolutely fell in love with the fact that, oh wow, we can make this absolutely pitch perfect like the shows that we're trying to recreate. And they just totally got lost in all of that, completely forgetting we aren't here to watch I Love Lucy. We are here to watch Marvel stuff. And they totally got lost in all of that. Now,
I wonder if anybody told them that I Love Lucy is already a thing we can watch.
So to answer your son's question, what is all of that supposed to mean? It's supposed to mean that like she's trying to fix her own life. However, they got lost in their own crap. That's what this show really feels like to me.
For me, this is I understand everything that you're saying. I don't necessarily agree with it because
What a surprise! Adam loves this.
I don't love it yet. I don't love it yet.
You love it.
I am intrigued by it. Right
you
now,
want to know more about Mr. Hart and his wife?
much more so.
You want like sitcom premise for a half an hour with two characters who like could just destroy a universe if they really went for it. But no. We got to learn if he's going to get a raise with his dumb job.
But that's to me. Here's the thing, though, and I do believe that will come in all as a story device. Them trying to figure out all of these things. It is these two people, and we'll get into it probably a little bit further as things go on.
It's small wonder for a new generation.
Exactly.
In a weird way, in a weird way, but at the same time too, this is them trying to figure out. I think they're in some sort of simulation type thing, and this is really two beings coming sentient in there and figuring out where their place is, how they've got to where they are, because it feels like they only half know or quarter know of what exactly is going on, and I think that's the exact same thing that we're getting as an audience, and why I think the audience is kind of split down that line. There is that shown line of you spent these 2 episodes going, what have I been watching? I'm not really quite sure of this. And then there's the other side of the coin that looks at every little tiny thing, every nook and cranny, and this thing is jam-packed, filled with a whole bunch of stuff. And when you watch it a second time and, go in with different mindset and thoughts of how, what the different scenarios could be, you look at characters and those characters' actions in a completely different way, or at least I did upon second viewing. Bruce,
Number 3.
Yeah, all right.
I was my answer. What was this supposed to mean? I don't know yet.
You're like, just watch the second episode, son. Because they put him out
the
together.
Second episode. I still didn't have an answer, but at least it was in color by the end.
Fair.
Honestly, if I wanted to give him the honest father-son answer, what was this supposed to mean? Well, this is supposed to mean we're going to fast forward to the last 5 minutes of each episode from now on.
Yeah, basically. That's my point to this.
Oh, man.
Number 3, Sean.
The last new Marvel movie was Spider-Man Far From Home. It was released on July 2nd, 2019. And if I was a kid and I waited that long for something new from the Marvel universe and it was this show, I'd be mad. I'm not a kid and I am mad. Does this show make you feel angry at all?
I've waited way longer for far worse. So, being given my life experience, this is not that big a deal.
On a scale of 1 to disappointed.
Hey, this is nowhere near as bad as Ready Player 2.
Take that, Ernie. I understand this, and yeah, I will definitely say if I was a kid and this was the show that they gave me, I would be very upset because this is not something that you can put, a 9-year-old in front of and they're going to glean a whole lot of entertainment value out of it. I do believe that to be true. But for me, as somebody on the outside who's, sat through, what was it, 3 or 4 seasons of Legion, I'm all down for whatever is kind of going on here.
But Legion, is it? You just broke my brain. Legion is like a wonder. It is Twin Peaks in the superhero universe, but it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Hawley is definitely not working on this project. Legion is trippy and difficult to follow and non-linear. This is giving the facade of being trippy and non-linear, but yet they're still spoon feeding you the stuff you really need to know. And Legion didn't spoon feed. I didn't think.
No. And on top of it,
are they spoon feeding? Sean didn't understand 3/4 of the miss. It sounds like he missed most of the things.
What are you talking about? Didn't understand?
Well, you get the big spoon at the end of each episode.
You are making the mistake, Adam, that I don't understand what the show is doing. Oh, I get it. I just don't like it.
That's fair.
Is what I'm saying to you. It's you know what this show is? This show is That's My Bush. Do you remember that show on Comedy Central before 9/11 happened?
Uh-huh.
Yes, I do.
That show is exactly what this show is.
That was a pretty good show. I like this.
No,
show.
It wasn't. It was the same exact thing that this show is doing right now. It is the oh, isn't this really great what we're doing? We're hitting every single beat of a stale old sitcom from the halcyon days of yore. And then we also have these little tiny hints that we're going to drop in very occasionally, but we want to kind of keep those out of the way because we want to learn how the magic show's going to go.
See, I think there's so much there that's beyond that, though. That's my
biggest complaint where the spoon feeding comes from. Is it's like at the end of that first episode, they were finished and like, wait, I'm afraid people are going to watch this and think this is the show. So we better put that part in the end where somebody's watching a monitor and they're pulling a plug and all this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, they basically ripped that scene off straight from the final episode of Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared.
I don't get the reference at all. Is that a thing?
It's a puppet show that you might like because it's really weird.
Oh, well, then I might check it out.
I think I saw it once. It did feel disturbing. Let's go to 4 because it feels like a little bit of the same here in a way. So Marvel's got a reputation for doing the same thing over and over and with great results. It seems to be working for them so far. And fans often say things that they want new things, but when they're given those new things, they often spit that back up in the face of the person feeding it to them. So why is it so difficult, especially for nerds, to accept new ideas? Because this is certainly different than anything we've gotten from Marvel previously.
We lack insight. First off, I just want to say that we don't know ourselves, and I'm speaking broadly on behalf of all of fandom, but we don't actually know what we want because so many people, if you give them exactly what they want, they would hate it.
Yeah. And that there was, I mean, the episode 7 was very much like that, where it was like, okay, you say you don't want these things.
Having said that, I would compare this to like date night is on Tuesday and you always take your significant other to the same Italian restaurant every Tuesday. And he or she says, you know what, next week, why don't we do something different? I'm going to let you choose and spice it up. And the next thing they know, they're at like a pit bull fight, like different just for being different doesn't always work out.
Well, is it like in the back of a barn or is it like a really high class operation?
How about this? It's in the back of a mid-level barn.
What's the food vendor situation like? Is it food trucks? What's going on? Because you got to eat,
not
clearly.
Entry-level chicken fighting. Yeah, we'll change it from dog fighting to chicken fighting. It's not entry-level, but it's also not like top of the bush either.
No, it's a mid-level. That's fine. That's where you want to be, really, because it can be too bougie and it can be too trashy. You want to be in the middle.
For sure.
You want to go to 5?
Sure. Oh, wow. I just glitched a little bit. Okay. I suspect they released 2 episodes to start because the powers that be did not have a lot of confidence in the first episode. Do you guys think that might be the case?
Yes. 100% yes.
Yeah, especially given the first episode, and like you said, with the little ending tacked on there, if and that had just been the thing, here's the scenario, right? If they would have just put out that first episode, everyone would have been like, oh, what is this? Very strange, very odd. Not quite sure what to make of this. And then if we would have waited a week and come and gotten episode 2 right after, if you think Sean's mad now, you could not imagine how angry he would be if we made him wait an entire week between these 2 episodes.
No. Man, you got it all wrong. You got it all wrong, Poitras. See, here is where my anger stems from. I do not find this hard to follow. I do not find this like strange and weird and like just a totally different new thing. To me, this is the oldest, lamest thing in the world. So when like at the end of the first episode of this, I would have been like, man, I sure hope episode 2 is different. In between those 2 things, I wouldn't have been pissed. What really, really stirred my mustard was when I hit the end of the second episode and realized, oh, they're just going to do this for 9 episodes. It's going to be this. Just like slowly parsing out information to you over time to the point where like probably the last episode, maybe the last 2 episodes, maybe are going to be like watching an actual Marvel TV show.
And I just happen to think that once we get to, let's just call it the end of this season, that you'll look back at all of these episodes and go, oh, that's what I think is going to happen.
No. No,
right.
I'm not.
I think so.
Because they're not. There's no. It's not like there's this big trail of breadcrumbs to get to the thing. Like it's so clear cut what they're doing that it's not like the real fun we had was the journey along the way. Like that isn't going to happen this time.
And I think it came as a surprise to everybody when we logged on and there were 2 episodes there. Like, I don't think they really promoted that. And when I saw there were 2 episodes, the first thing that went through my mind was, well, this could be bad. It tells me they didn't have enough confidence. They didn't drop 2 episodes of The Mandalorian to start it off.
No, now granted, okay, when we talk about the ends of episodes, the end of the first Mandalorian episode, it was such a giant drop on everybody that everyone was like, "Wait a minute, we're doing what now?" That was the biggest thing. Now this does not have that kind of moment for sure. Certainly not of that monumental level that will let's face it, change the way we think about a lot of stuff with the baby. That's what we'll call it. If you haven't seen The Mandalorian, and if you haven't, what's wrong with you? What planet are you on? How are you listening to this show as well? Seems weird, but I don't know. I'm excited to see what else they're doing, because to me this just doesn't feel like the same old.
I think they felt like modern audiences needed some kind of guarantee that future episodes would be in color, not black and white. And I'm not making a joke. I honestly think there are people who would check out if they thought it was all black and white.
I totally think you're right on that.
I agree with that, because people are quite strange like that. Let's go to 6.
Bruce, how close is this stupid show to the comic books that I'm sure every nerd everywhere always will bring up when speaking about this stupid show?
Why, I'm glad you asked that question, Sean. I have a video addressing that on my YouTube channel, which you can find on YouTube if you search for Bruce Leslie, talking about the relationship of Wanda and Vision. But to answer your question, it's like most of what they do. It's got some elements there. Episode 2 ends with the surprise pregnancy that did not happen in the traditional manner. That's from the comics. The deal with the twins is going to be something from the comics. There's a couple of, at least one character that I think is from the comics, though they changed her name. And we'll just have to see how it plays out. But it's like, there are these things that happen in the comics and they're happening here, but they're happening in a totally different way.
All right.
Yeah, I'd seen, obviously, Bruce's video there on YouTube and a couple other things talking about different scenarios, but none of them really seem to, at least one-for-one, kind of line up with anything, right, Bruce? Not that I can quite notice. There seems to be elements
Vision
of
trying
everything.
to hold a job, Vision working for that computer company and trying to blend in as a regular person. A lot of that, I think, comes from the Tom King Vision miniseries, which is wonderful and has no Wanda in it, but it does seem to evoke some things from the comics without being a direct, adaptation.
Yeah, but at the same time, also not being like a David S. Goyer kind of thing, where it's like, I just pulled the names.
Oh, man. I wish I could remember the show or the podcast, but I heard somebody say that what a movie needed to be better was some David Goyer, and I had to turn it off.
Oh, man, that would immediately make me shut it off.
One star
His name
review.
is Vision, but he's not a robot, and he walks around with a baseball bat.
Here's the thing. Yeah, his name is Vision, but he's blind. That'll blow their mind.
Yeah, not bad. All right, let's go on to 7. What do you guys think of the supporting cast so far? We got a couple of familiar faces out there.
I like Catherine Hahn. Is that her name? Catherine Hahn?
Yeah, Catherine Hahn. I love her at everything that she's in. Those Moms movies are like, she makes those flicks.
Yep. She is the best part of those movies. She's the best part of Step Brothers. She's the best part of this show.
Yeah, she's pretty great. And Deborah Jo Rupp there coming in as, from her long string of 8 billion different, TV shows, including that 70s show, where I think most people would probably recognize her.
Of course, people are going to love her. She gives it some sitcom street cred.
Yeah.
And she was one of my favorite little moments from her was in she played like Jerry's like agent or manager in Seinfeld for like an episode. Where she was
I don't recall that, but I have to go check it out again.
She was overly protective and told him every little thing that would go down whenever. So she just kind of micromanaged his entire life. She's pretty good. But yeah, I like all the kind of the ancillary characters here, and when you watch a second time,
I like the dude with the fake mustache.
What are you talking about? That's a fake mustache? Thing was beautiful. But so far, and of course, we got, I can't remember her name. The lady that plays Monica Rambeau. She's
What?
Monica
Spoiler,
Rambeau.
man.
Yeah. What do you mean, spoiler? We're all here.
Monica was a little kid last time I saw her. I didn't know she had grown up that fast.
Well, yeah. I mean, what other thing was she in? This is not the first time we've seen her as an adult. No, am I wrong?
Yes, it is, and we're not supposed to know that yet.
Well, that's who she is.
I haven't seen a single thing that actress is in. But I know that she's in like Chirac and Dear White People and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like the original Dear White People. I did see that one in there, and a couple things. But I'll tell you this: she is one of those people that you go, "Oh my God, just the most perfect teeth ever." Oh, yeah. I love it. Yeah, she's just a beautiful lady, and then she's smiles and just like just the most picture perfect teeth. I love it.
Don't drop the ball on Paul Bettany's teeth either. They are so perfect that I think they might be fake.
Those are 100%.
Yeah, there's not a non-man-made tooth in his English mouth.
What are you talking about? We do have perfect dentistry over here.
Yeah, that's how he sounds. Yeah,
perfect. What's the next one? 9, 10? I forget.
I think it's 8.
8.
So this question is primarily for Adam. Did the retro television aspect ratio put you off at all?
No, I loved it. And I loved how when the show itself starts out, you've got the Alan Silvestri Marvel theme and everything. It's blaring through 5.1, and as it goes on and gets down to the black and white WandaVision, goes from that, wide CinemaScope aspect right to 4:3, and then all the audio goes right up front in kind of this kind of fake mono sound, which is fantastic. And in none of the, at least none that I could tell, and I monitored pretty well, no back surrounds in any of the episode.
Oh, wow, really?
So it's very all kind of made to have this super mono sound. All of the dialogue and everything does come out of the center channel, and a bit of the music and audience goes out of the left and right channels. But it gives a very kind of monaural sound coming out of it, and I really like that as well.
Finally, something I can watch on my 13-inch CRT TV that I still have.
Yes. Now, the only thing that
Why do you still carry that thing around?
It's convenient.
In case somebody breaks into the house, it's the heaviest weapon I own.
But and I know why they didn't, because it's the modern times and everything. But if they could have shot these 2 episodes in 16 millimeter black and white, it would have just been amazing, because you could tell it was colored. They just made it black and white.
Yeah.
But it really would have given that super quality. But I know there's probably some special effects in there that we don't even see. There's a lot of the fake special effects with the wires and whatnot, but I'm not talking about those. But there are probably other CGI special effects that we don't realize. So I'm sure that's why they needed as high a resolution as they did. But, man, that would have made it just another little notch above if they would have gone 16 millimeter black and white. But I get it.
And I think we've also reached this point where suddenly, like, the old school is way more expensive than to just film it digitally and do it in post. Like when Seth Rogen talked about on Preacher how much more expensive it was to actually just make fake planets hanging from strings and film it than it was to CGI it.
You just give some guy up in, one of those just small effects houses and stuff, give that guy $50. He's super excited for the gig.
Yeah.
Number 9.
I've never liked the trope. Can you call it a trope of fake sitcom unless there's something else to it? Think the flashback and natural born killers. The same way that some people have an adverse effect with satire. Is there a style that you guys particularly don't like?
I always have a weird. I like them to a certain degree only because how corny they are, but I don't like very special episodes.
Oh man, I love those.
It's always just like, hey, I tuned into Different Strokes for a good time, and you're gonna get this, like, it's an important lesson to be learned for sure, but I don't need to be bummed out. I came to laugh.
This is when what is it? Joe Namath tells you a very important story about vapor lock. That's the very special episode.
Exactly. Puts his hand on your shoulder. Let me tell you something, son.
For me, I don't like dream sequences. And I really don't like when a whole episode is just a dream And that was more of an 80s sitcom thing. I also don't like it when they make it so you can't tell what's the dream and what's real. That's why it was hard for me to get my claws into Legion in the first few episodes, but eventually I caught on to that. So I guess for me, it's like when the people making the show are trying to show you that they're smarter than you are, I don't really care for that.
No, who could be smarter than you, Bruce? Come on. How
much time you guys have?
That doesn't exist.
It's a long list.
For me, I understand. I feel like I understand at least why they're kind of doing the fake sitcom deal while we're going through time and all that kind of stuff. So that particularly doesn't bother me. That I can say.
I was really banging my head together because I know that I liked. Somebody has done it correctly, and weirdly, it's Oliver Stone who did it correctly. It's so weird that it's him. But that natural born killer sequence, knowing her past and the way that they convey that information, it's basically pitch perfect the way they do it.
And that is one of the main parts that Tarantino was like, "No, I don't like this. This is terrible. That's not what I wrote. Goodbye." It is. It's weird. It's like from what I would understand.
Now look at where his career is. The guy should have paid attention.
He knows what's what. Let's go to question 10 here. Is the conceit that we've seen so far here, are Wanda and Vision more like they're in Pleasantville or the Truman Show?
Well, it's going to be. Go ahead, Sean.
I think here's my 2 bits on this. It feels like what they're going to tell us eventually is that Wanda set up this like pocket universe thing, and now they're stuck. And because there's another entity, I'm guessing it's Catherine Hahn's character, that's keeping them from being able to go into like the regular universe again. Just a guess. But you don't hire Catherine Hahn to do nothing. And so that's my guess, is that she is the character that's keeping them there, and that they're going to be, like probably around what feels like 2027. That reveal is going to happen.
Hey, yeah, we come from the you didn't realize that Brian Michael Bendis co-wrote all the you'll see it in 6 weeks, don't worry.
What I'm seeing here, I don't think that it's that much like the Truman Show. And I haven't seen Pleasantville, so other than black and white and color being mixed together, I don't know what the parallel would be there. But I think there's a broken conceit. I think that the conceit that maybe would work here is similar to a movie, the name of which I can't recall. Maybe you guys can. But this guy takes a group of folks from a mental hospital out on a day trip, and shenanigans ensue. And one of the residents of the mental institution that's out with him only speaks in baseball terms. So like when he has to go to the bathroom really bad, he goes, batter up, home run, grands. He will only speak in baseball terms. So I think this would work if we knew some of Wanda's backstory, like when she was being experimented on to become the Scarlet Witch, and she was trapped in that cage in Europe, that the only solace she had was watching sitcoms on TV. So now that she's in her compromised state, be it a coma or interdimensional wandering, she frames it in sitcom terms because that feels safe to her, or it provides her comfort after the loss. But they didn't lay down the groundwork ahead of time for that to play out. But I feel like they're going to say, oh yeah, you all know how she loved watching sitcoms when she was in that cage being experimented on with her twin brother.
I don't know that we need to know that ahead of time, but I think when we I think that we will find that out, of that was the, what kind of spurred this particular kind of, if you will, vision on, is that, those were the things that she watched that seemed like it had some sort of normality and everything, opposite of what she had, some sort of weird idealistic thing that, you saw, coming on TV in the 50s and leading into the 60s and sometimes even to 70s and stuff. But how the progression of television went on was getting closer and closer to what represented actual reality, quote unquote. And I think this is going to be that same way. This is her fighting to get to whatever that reality is, because she's in a place that clearly she doesn't know where she is or exactly what's going on. She knows the relationship between the two of them, and has a vague idea, much like the sitcoms, has a vague idea of what's going on, but can't really fill in all the blanks where they need to. And that's what I think this show is going to eventually become, is filling in those blanks.
And is the movie you're thinking of The Dream Team with Michael Keaton?
It sounds like it.
Because, yeah, except for the baseball thing, at first I was just like, well, that's One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And then the baseball thing came into play, and I'm like, that's not right.
I remember One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest pretty well.
Let's go to question number
11.
11, rather. Excuse me.
Do you have a favorite sitcom reference in the first 2 episodes? And if it helps clarify, I'm happy to answer first.
Well, we'll let you go first, because I got one in the pocket.
Yeah, I got mine too.
Because for me, I think that the one moment where it was like, like Captain America when he hears flying monkeys, I get that reference. The moment I was really proud of is in the sort of fake intro on the first episode when Vision is carrying Wanda across the threshold and into the house, and he almost trips over the chair. And
Damn it, that was mine.
Oh, the running gag from the Dick Van Dyke Show, which I think is the best black and white comedy that people overlook. I don't know if that makes sense. It was like a proto Seinfeld.
And I want to point something out, because a lot of people don't really remember this as well as they should, because everybody remembers Dick Van Dyke tripping over the ottoman, which most of the time that he did. But there were several episodes where he sidesteps the ottoman.
Yes, it was like a couch gag, however many years before The Simpsons.
Yeah, it was called Which One Are We Going to Do? And it was mostly fall, but every now and then they'd sneak in a quick one like, oh, gah, boom, missed it and everything. And that's what I liked, was more of that sort of reference. But really, I think I love the Bewitched opening, the kind of weird animated Bewitched opening. I thought that was great.
You got anything else to throw in there, Sean?
No, you nailed it. I mean, that's...
And another reference I like that came in the second episode, not the first, so it wasn't my answer, but she's wearing the capri pantsuits that Mary Tyler Moore was almost scandalous for wearing those in a sitcom, and everybody else in their dresses at the ladies' meeting are commenting on her pants, and I thought that's also like a Dick Van Dyke lover is making this show.
Well, that's also Bewitched.
Yeah, but Mary Tyler Moore did it famously, man.
But that's also the same thing as because the first episode is a bit more like kind of your late 50s sitcoms. Then we get into the second episode, we're in kind of more 60s
and also
into
Bewitched,
the 70s.
early seasons black and white, late seasons color. So we get colorized at the end of that second episode.
That's where it lands.
Number 12. The only part of this show I actually like were the commercials. What's your favorite part?
I
sure as heck wasn't the commercials for me. Go ahead, Adam.
You didn't like the commercials? Because I thought the commercials were great. I thought it's an interesting thing because, first of all, when the first fade out comes, I'd be like, wouldn't it be hilarious if they had commercials? And they fade it up, and I didn't think it was a commercial at first, but like 2 seconds in, I'm like, oh my God, they made a commercial. Good for you, show. And then when you realize that it's about a toaster, Stark toaster, so you get a little bit of that kind of, all right, something's going on in the world here. It's not exactly what we quite remember. And then with the second one, where it's Strucker watches, and you got the little Hydra symbol on there and everything, we're leaving some crumbs out there.
Mm-hmm.
Man, the first commercial that popped up, my mind went, okay, so this is Harvey Korman's cooking show on the Christmas special.
It's not that bad. Special. Oh, my Lord. Come on now.
It's like and particularly that first episode when I'm really getting impatient for the show to get going into what the greater narrative is going to be, I felt like that commercial was an even more superfluous waste of my time.
And little did you know that the biggest hints dropped are in the commercials.
Well, we'll see how that plays out. I don't know yet, especially that first commercial. The second one, maybe. I don't know as much about that first one.
Well, speaking of that first one, let's go to question 13 with these commercials in mind. How does a toaster not only toast bread, but also meatloaf, apple pie, and an open-faced cheese sandwich? Is Stark just that good?
First off, I can tell you from experience, any toaster can toast meatloaf if you're dedicated to toasting your meatloaf.
It's a toaster oven.
Yeah, but at the same time, it pops in just like regular toast. Because I had the
You
same
are right.
thought, but it just goes
you are
right in the
right.
top, and I'm like, well, maybe it'll feed it out the bottom, and that's what. No, it pops right up like toast. I don't know.
All you have to do, you lay the toaster on its side, you put the slice of cheese on the bread, you stick it in there, and you get an open face cheese sandwich and a very messy toaster at the end.
Yeah, was it just my parents that were like, they were big on the open faced cheese sandwich for like a long time? Were we just super poor? Was that what was going on? They're like, no, you get one piece of bread and some crab cheese, not two pieces of bread.
There's not much that gets sympathy from me because I grew up in very humble beginnings, but if you can only afford one piece of bread for your sandwiches, you got my sympathy.
That's how they just put it under the broiler for a second.
I think it makes sense because you're going to get a hell of a lot more flavor if there's just the one piece of bread. But I mean, I never had open faced cheese toast. No, but like I did have like open faced turkey sandwiches and stuff, and that stuff was great.
Yeah. I've had some hot browns. They're pretty good, but you can try to guess the first thing I would do if somebody handed me an open-faced cheese sandwich.
Where's the rest of this sandwich? If I know Bruce
Nope,
Leslie.
I'm not even going to waste my breath. I'm just going to fold it in half and eat it like a half a cheese sandwich.
Well, if anything, you get half a double cheese sandwich at that point. So it's kind of like, you really.
I mean,
depends on how
I'm
you
not
look at
trying
it,
to
right?
flex on people, but I always put 2 slices of cheese on my cheese sandwich.
Ooh, Mr. Richie Rich over there.
Rockefeller.
Moonsterly.
Ooh-wee, I got 2 pieces of bread.
Let's go to 14.
The apple pie is the one I was calling BS on.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. How you put pie in a toaster? Listen,
It's called a Pop-Tart. An apple Pop-Tart. Do they make those?
It's
They
your
sound
turn
delicious.
too, Brad.
Yes, they
It's
do.
your turn.
Is Agnes so named because it's sort of like a contraction of Agatha Harkness?
a lot of people are going towards this, and I like it as a theory. When I first heard Agnes, my first thought was Agnes Moorehead from Bewitched because, she's great.
Yeah.
Double works.
But I certainly think that is the case. People are talking about the brooch an awful lot, how that was very much like something Harkness had.
Yeah.
Now,
I gotta say, I think that the very smart people who are making this show are doing all of that on purpose. I think that's the point.
Now, Bruce, throw our maybe not so comic booky listeners who Agatha Harkness kind of is.
So Agatha Harkness is a legitimate witch, practices witchcraft. No mutant powers, no Eye of Agamotto. She's just a good old-fashioned witch. And she serves as a mentor for many story arcs for the Scarlet Witch to help her better understand how witchcraft can help her guide her mutant power. And then James Robinson, the guy who's really well known for his wonderful Starman run, he wrote I think it was a limited series Scarlet Witch story in which magic was broken and Agatha Harkness had to sort of serve as a guide to walk Scarlet Witch through repairing that. So I think she's here to guide Scarlet Witch through whatever's going on here. Also important to note, most recently, Agatha Harkness has been a ghost. She's a witch who died years back, and now it's her ghost that you see. And I think that this could indeed be a ghost when we're seeing Agnes.
Hey, we might want to turn the recorder off because Ghost Witch is a great idea for, basically anything.
Ghost Witch. All right.
Ghost Witch.
Or how about witch ghost, spelled like a witch, but with a question mark at the end, so people don't know how you intend that.
Witch Ghost?
Yes.
Ghost Witch Ghost.
Open-faced cheese sandwich ghost?
Terrible. What's the next question? 15.
If you're able to recreate something so perfectly that is virtually indistinguishable from the product you've originated from, should you do it?
No, you should not. In my opinion, no, you should not. And I got a problem with maybe they're recreating things a little too faithfully here, but usually we've moved on for a reason. And if you want nostalgia, then go watch The Real Deal. I don't know, man. I can be inconsistent in my answer. So I'm going to shut up and hear Adam's clearly well thought out answer.
I mean, my thought is that, yes, it is exactly like those things.
Adam, you missed a perfect opportunity to just have a fart noise, and then we move on to the next one.
It's true, though. No, I think that there's a lot behind actually what's going on here, and I think as faithful recreations as a lot of these things tend to be, I think there is a reason behind all of those things that will be delivered to us in hopefully short order form.
Boy, I hope that's short order.
But yeah. Man, don't take too awful long with it. I don't necessarily need
sometimes when a person does that, when it's that much of a faithful recreation, I just want to say, okay, here's your gold star. You proved you could do it. Now let's get on with something else.
Let me ask you this, because it's not part of the questions here, but what are you guys' thoughts on just sitcoms in general? I don't know that I necessarily know all of that.
It's what I grew up on, man. I mean, it was the best friends I had in my depressing, sad, lonely youth were sitcoms.
Because I was like, when growing up, we were all about, when Nick at Night would come on, all of that crap, everything from Bewitched, I Love Lucy. So like all of this stuff is so directly, up my alley. And I loved sitcoms all the way up till really around the year 2000 even. There's something about a stupid sitcom formula that just still works. I mean, we have 30 years worth of The Simpsons. You may not like all of those, years and everything. Certainly there's debate for them, but there's something to be said about a sitcom and those tropes and stuff, and being able to do them at least well enough has always kind of worked for me.
Yeah, I was probably the world's only 14-year-old diehard Dick Van Dyke Show fan. So there you go.
Yeah.
When I started doing comedy for real, it was such a bummer because I could see the seams in every sitcom and things that I enjoyed growing up watching. I could see all of it, and it was a bummer because it was like, oh man, I used to like that show, and now all I see is the work.
Sometimes sometimes the work is like, hey, I know what's kind of coming, and I like a magician that knows how things are done. Sometimes they just like to watch magic to be like, well, let me just see how you do it. And then like, I know how you do it, but I'd like to see it executed well. 16.
I like sitcoms.
16. Which do you find more insane? The fact that the director of this series is one of the most celebrated Game of Thrones directors. He only directed one episode, but it apparently was one of the top 10. Don't ask me which one because I don't know. Or that he directed 48 episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, or that he was on Saved by the Bell. Which is the most outrageous?
Obviously on Saved by the Bell. I mean, anybody who's had firsthand accounts of Zach Morris and his phone gets, I mean, that trumps everything else.
See, I don't even see. Technically, he was on. It was "Welcome Back, Miss Bliss" or whatever, which was.
Oh, that's even better. Why didn't you just put that in there? Welcome back.
Well, because most people won't know what I'm talking about, and that's why you have to say "Saved by the Bell." Because if you do that, you're like, "Well, that's a show I've never heard of. Why would I care?"
Now, who was he on Welcome Back, Miss Bliss? I don't even know who directed this.
Oh, you're asking questions that I don't have anything pulled up for me right now. But it was not. He wasn't like Screech.
Georgie Winslow.
I wish that was that real. Please tell me.
Yes, his name is Georgie Winslow on Good Morning, Miss Bliss.
Was he the dark-haired kid in the leather jacket?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I didn't even know. I'm just going through his filmography right now because it just seems impossible that the guy who was one of the kids on Just the 10 of Us also directed an episode of Game of Thrones.
So, which Game of Thrones episode? Am I putting everybody on the spot again?
Nobody knows. Adam did half research.
Yes, that's true, and I didn't care. That was the biggest thing. If I would have cared, I would have put it in there. But I got the Miss Bliss reference. Come on, I did 1/3 of the work. It's fine.
He directed 2 episodes of Game of Thrones.
Was one of them Battle of the Bastards?
It was Battle of something. There was a fight in it, from what I'm to understand. I don't know how often that happens in a Game of Thrones episode, but I'm reliably informed fighting was going on.
Okay, so that can take 3 episodes out of the 8 seasons off the board.
But hey, look, from what I understand, it wasn't one of the last ones that everybody hated, so that should be good. 17.
Any thoughts on who/what or why Geraldine is? Because I don't think she's just a random supporting character like most of the other ladies.
Yeah.
So Adam,
Flip Wilson used to have this character that he did.
Yes.
On Laugh-In, where he played a lady,
Geraldine, and
it seems like every other thing to come from that, everything from Big Mama's House to whatever anyway.
I will say
I'm
this.
sorry, keep going.
She's
What was the
better
lady on
looking
the
than
Martin show, Shanae?
Yeah, Shanae.
Yeah, that's a Geraldine type.
She's far better looking than Martin Lawrence or or what's his nose there, Flip Wilson. Yeah. So it's come out. This is Monica Rambeau in one way, shape, or form, or at least she's playing Monica Rambeau at a later time in the Marvel universe and everything.
So here's my next question then. Since the cat was out of the bag that this is Monica Rambeau, which I didn't know when I was watching the show, by the way. I totally that caught me by surprise when I was reading a recap. So I was thinking that she might have been Abigail Brand, and I wonder if maybe some of what Abigail Brand did in the comics will now be done by Monica Rambeau, because Abigail Brand would fit real well with what's going on in these first 2 episodes.
Okay, how so? Fill us in on that.
Well, Abigail Brand is the former agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. who became the founder, I guess, the director of S.W.O.R.D. And we get a lot of S.W.O.R.D. references here. And we'll get into that more in a bit. And I could see Monica Rambeau being a contemporary of Captain Marvel, her maybe being interested in the space equivalent of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is what S.W.O.R.D. is.
Yeah.
So I think she might be here trying to infiltrate.
Agent of S words.
I got I got another theory on that that'll come down in the in a couple episodes or questions to come rather. All right, it's 18.
18. While watching, Mrs. Sweet Shanzi said Vision is better looking as a robot. Agree or disagree?
I think so. I think that's correct.
I gotta tell you, she has a point, because there is something that makes him more handsome being in the makeup.
After the episode was over, if I checked your Google search history, would I find how to look more like a robot on there, Sweet Shanzi?
I have no problem with my physical appearance. I think I'm quite handsome indeed already.
But robot,
Neither
but
does
robot
Paul
won't hurt.
Bettany, but robot
for
Paul
sure.
Bettany. It's like, you take something that's already good and you make it better. I'm waiting for a little robot Shanzi to show up.
You got
I would say that Paul Bettany is doing just fine.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty good. Okay.
Not bad for that guy, I'll tell you. But no, it is weird. He does, like, when you saw like his regular face, you're like, that looks kind of funny. What's going on here?
How come he's not purple?
That rubber mask is totally unbelievable. Oh, there's the robot version. That's believable.
19. This show reportedly cost a lot of money to produce, and word is that a large bit of that money went to special effects. If you were an executive that wasn't paying a whole lot of attention when the show was being made, how confused would you be with what you've seen so far put to screen?
It's far more expensive to take something expensive and make it look cheap than it is to just make it cheap in the first place.
It's true.
But my guess is obviously we're going to get to a lot of crazy magic within the next couple of episodes and stuff. And again, I think as technology progresses in the time format, so to speak, going from 50s to 60s to 70s and on, perhaps the level of special effects will incline concurrently.
This just in, their number one special effect was getting Paul Bettany to look like a robot so he'd be more handsome.
I know that they're saying it's the special effects. However, I think that this is all a fake out, because you cannot lure the 2 leads of the show away from movies to work on this project without a whole lot of money to get them to do it.
Well, Paul Bettany's thing was he thought when he was brought into the Marvel Studios office that he was being fired.
Right.
And said they weren't going to have
Well,
me
he's
asking me
dead.
back for it anymore. Well, at the same time, but then they were like, okay, well, no, we actually want you to be in a sitcom. And
then he demanded $12 million an episode.
I'll tell you this, Vision would be definitely dead if he asked for $12 million an episode for this show. There's no way. No way.
That's why I'm yet to be cast in anything Marvel does.
I want Friends money, says Paul Bettany.
I don't care if the show's never been on the air. I want that money. Nuts.
Number 20. Do you have any speculation about the toy helicopter in the bushes?
Well, it's got the sword logo on it. We know that much. That's the only thing that I can really pull from it. I like the fact that it's in color, and that's the weird thing. And, Catherine Hahn's character comes over to distract her away from looking at that. She drops it at that point, so it's no longer, out of sight, out of mind, and I have to continue on this quote-unquote life that I'm living, so I have to just kind of go along with whatever the narrative here is.
Yeah, that very scene is why I think that Catherine Hahn is more than she is supposed to be, and not just because of her name. Because of that scene, I was like, she's up to something.
And she's always, and we'll talk about it a little later, but she's always suggesting things and pointing the characters in the right directions, or the directions that she feels that they need to go. So,
and this isn't my theory; it's one I saw someone else share online. But the thought that helicopter is actually a drone that S.W.O.R.D. has sent into whatever dimension reality she's in, and that's how they're able to observe her. Is they have some of these drones in the area.
You figured look cooler.
I think they're trying to make it look not so cool so that it doesn't. I mean, you send it into a 1950s world, something that looks like a four-foil drone from modern era. That's going to get, aliens are coming to Earth. We're going to have War of the Worlds all over again.
Yeah,
but the helicopter, maybe people would buy.
Well, shouldn't you paint it in black and white then before you send that cat in there?
You should, but then how would we know it's supernatural?
I guess. I mean, well, for story purposes, dummy. I was like, well, of course. 21.
Why does the beekeeper guy who comes out of the sewer grate have a S.W.O.R.D. logo on his back? And why is he coming out of a sewer grate?
That's a very good question. But, Bruce, I saw a thing online here, and I'm not much familiar with it. Put you on the spot. Sorry about it, but I think you're a smart fella. People have also thought that this might be Swarm. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Yes, Swarm. I think he was a member of the Sinister Six. That's what my 13-year-old son thought, was that maybe this guy is Swarm. He's a Spider-Man villain, I think, more historically, so maybe out of place. The S.W.O.R.D. logo, of course, they're letting us know for sure that the organization known as S.W.O.R.D. is looking for Wanda, or trying to get a handle on the situation in one way, shape, or form, which tells me this isn't all just like a coma or thoughts inside of her head, but she's actually traveled somewhere outside of the Earth for this to be happening. And the guy with the S.W.O.R.D. logo on his back, like you said, Swarm is a good possibility, except I don't know how he fits in this narrative. Another thought, and this is a little more abstract, which I would like it if they were doing this. It's more Legion style, but the random foot soldiers from AIM, Advanced Idea Mechanics, they wear these hazmat suits that people jokingly say they look like beekeepers.
Yeah, I think I saw somebody else say something about a possibility for AIM and everything. So, yeah.
And that means they're bringing Aldrich Killian back if it's AIM, right?
I think so.
Oh, right. Yeah, Iron Man 3 villain. Yeah,
or
Guy
at least
Pearce.
his legacy, if they don't actually bring Guy Pearce back on account of his deadness and all.
What, with the dead and all?
Yeah.
He did.
Let's
22,
see.
Adam.
22. One of the main themes through these two episodes is for the children, or the idea that children keep coming into play. Do you guys have any guesses to why this could possibly be? And the fact that as much as we're talking about children, and children are brought up and bringing your kids to the school, we never once see a child in any of these episodes.
It's because at the end of that second episode, we have that magic baby bump with Wanda, and she's going to magically create twin boys, that in the comics will grow up to be Wiccan and Speed of the Young Avengers. So I think for the children, I really think that very tragic storyline of the twins from the comics is what this is going to try to parallel a little bit.
And
I hadn't really thought about all this, because I try as little as possible to think about this show. But talking about AIM, having that, it sounds very culty, for the children and all that stuff. That's very AIM-ish. I think that you guys you've touched on something here with the AIM. Yeah.
I don't remember them talking about raising any kind of barns.
Okay.
Remember those people that just say the word Amish like that?
Oh, yeah.
I love those people.
Okay, gotcha.
You know the
Gotcha.
Amish people? All right,
Not I say Hamish.
I apologize.
23. Is that Randall Park's voice? And Randall Park played Agent Wu in Ant-Man and Wasp. But some people have speculated that is Randall Park's voice coming out of the radio asking Wanda if she can hear him.
I sure hope it is.
Yeah.
This show could use some Randall Park.
I think, yeah, it's definitely. I think it is him. He is in the credits and everything. But at the same time, too, when I first heard it, the funny part is that it always kind of goes back to that Office episode where he doubled as Jim that one time, and and so for whatever reason, sometimes when I hear his voice, I hear Jim's voice.
Oh, so maybe that's Reed Richards on the.
That
on
would
the
be
radio.
interesting. But I always at first I'm like, Chuck Krasinski's not on this show. That's Randall Park. That makes total sense. And it's weird because those two don't really sound like each other that much. But I don't know.
That is by far the best prank on The Office ever.
Oh, it's so good.
Randall Park, Agent Wu feels like the next Agent Coulson. Like Agent Coulson wasn't supposed to be anything, but then people kind of liked him, so he grew into this whole thing. And I like it that Agent Wu is going to grow into his whole thing now, I think.
Well, the big thing too is Randall Park's great. He's great in everything that he's in, so you're always on board for that.
He was
guy.
even good in Aquaman, wasn't he? In Aquaman.
Well, I try to forget most of Aquaman. Maybe.
Dolph Lundgren is in Aquaman, and he's great in that.
Yes.
That's true. 24.
So 24. How often do you think Elizabeth Olsen talks to her sisters?
I don't know.
That is a great question, because you got this weird dynamic there where her sisters are way richer than she is, but she's way more famous now. And it's like, do they each have this bitterness towards the other? And isn't there like a fourth Olsen sister floating around out there?
I think there is. I think there's one more out there that they're like Hemsworth. They keep showing up.
Yeah. But yeah, man, that is a great question, just because my head inevitably goes to the negative side of family dynamics.
Yeah, I mean, all the Culkin kids kind of hate each other to one degree or another. It's a nuts world. I couldn't imagine, because those two girls, they grew up, obviously on that Full House and everything, and then created their own little empire outside of that we're not really aware of because we're not young girls.
And
but
if you had a daughter and you bought clothes at Walmart, Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen's clothing line well.
It's quite insane, but I think you're right. Like, Elizabeth's acting career has just been fantastic. She is just great in
she's
everything.
very, very talented. Unlike her sisters, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but that is the case. There's also you are right. There is a fourth Olsen sister. Her name is Taylor Olsen, and she's probably best known for, get ready for it, YOLO the movie.
Oh, nice.
See, I bet she calls all three of her sisters every day.
What's everybody up to? How's it going? You got any projects you're working on?
I was looking at this new minivan, and I could use a little help on the down payment.
It's a Windstar.
It's only got 26,000 miles, just like new.
25. In what one can only assume, for lack of a better word, is the layer of sword that we see that is around everywhere. It's on the plane that we talked about in the after scene and everything in there. We see that this show also, someone is behind a Rodecaster Pro by their side. Bruce, as owner of a Rodecaster Pro, we know this guy's evil, correct?
Oh, yeah. I push the right button. I can see all your skeevy dreams.
Don't you love that? I love that when you see a prop or something in a movie or a TV show, and it's like, I got that. I own that.
It does look like a ridiculous sci-fi prop with those bright, glowing sound pad buttons. And it's inexpensive. You grab one, you throw it on the set. I'm going to start making some home movies with this thing.
I'm telling you, the reason that was gotten put on set, somebody goes, I need one of these. It's for the set. It's for the set. Where's it going after the set? Back into storage.
Let me explain something to you. Disney has a lock on all of the quote props unquote that have ever come through their doors. They are so meticulous with their props that if anything I mean, anything. A pencil could go missing, and you're going to get a phone call. I'm just telling you right now. It's going to happen.
Now, I've got my mind-blowing theory. Somebody saw a Rodecaster Pro, thought it would look great in this scene, and instead of going online and ordering one for $600, they spent about 10 grand building their own
Fabricating
Rodecaster
their
Pro.
own version.
What a brilliant idea.
Oh, my Lord. And I wouldn't put it past sometimes with shows,
And the guy that built it has a secret lab in his garage, and he just ordered it and sold it to him immediate, like $9,000 profit.
That's even better. Yeah, you're the guy who goes, I'm a prop maker. You pay me $5,000 for the creation of this thing. You buy a $600 mixer and send it in.
All he did was file off the 4 letters RODE and then brought it in.
Perfect. That's the kind of business you want to be in right there. 26.
In the WandaVision universe, who is watching these shows?
Taylor Olson.
Oh, that's in real life. That's in real life. Taylor Olson's watching this and going, son of a. I don't know. I mean, I guess the only person that we could kind of point to, would be Randall Park, because that's just kind of who we've heard. But I don't think that would be him that's kind of watching these things behind the Procaster, right?
I think it's somebody else staring at that screen behind the Procaster, or the Rodecaster Pro. I'm sorry.
Yeah, come on, Road. Talk to me about branding, because you're doing a terrible job with this podcast line you're doing. Just we'll talk.
They're hoping 50% of the time people order the wrong thing, then have to order the other one so they'll work together.
No kidding. What are we on here? 27.
Number 27. There's 9 episodes this season. If it's 95% sitcom, 5% explanation for every single episode, we're in for a very, very long 7 weeks. Do you guys want to start talking about 80s and 90s Boston Red Sox trivia to pass the time?
Was Oil Can Boyd a reliever for the Red Sox in the 80s?
He was not a reliever. He was a starting pitcher in the 80s.
I'm not qualified. I got that one wrong.
And I'm out completely, because
I'm just very impressed that you knew who Oil Can Boyd was.
Hey, I was a baseball card collector. Wasn't it Dennis Oil Can Boyd?
It was, in fact, Dennis Oil Can Boyd, and he is a coach right now in the big leagues.
How do you figure one comes about?
I've still got all my Bill Buckner cards.
How does one go about the name Oil Can, though? How do you figure that?
Because he never gets rusty. Don't you get it?
Okay, I do now. I'm just like, maybe
I thought he put motor oil on his pitches or something, like Spitballs.
Big, Wizard of Oz fan or something. I don't know.
We're killing all the nerds with all of this.
We are indeed. Let's go to 28 then. Now, we reviewed FX show Legion on Hero Movie Podcast. Listen to HMP wherever you find podcasts. Bruce was the one that we had to drag along kicking and screaming, and he eventually turned the corner on one of the best superhero TV shows in the last 5 years. As it concerns WandaVision, will Sean be the new Bruce for this series?
I say no. I don't think Sean turns. I don't think Sean makes the turn like I did.
I do see that I could be bullet headed when it comes to certain things.
What?
I want this show to be great. I want to tune in. I need a new Mandalorian, damn it. This show needs to be good, and it's just not my cup of tea.
I'm seeing a scenario where the Martez sisters storyline didn't work, even though the season worked. And let's say the last 2 episodes you think are brilliant, Sean. I think you're still going to say you didn't like the season as a whole.
Could be.
But if these first 2 episodes end up being the Martez sisters, so to speak, would you be okay with that? If it just got on the ground running at this point, or are we too far gone?
Oh, no, man. Like, I mean, the Martez sisters was what? That was 2 episodes?
It felt like 8.
4.
It did feel like 4. And this feels like 4 episodes as well. But, I was able to, I'm able to say that that last season of Clone Wars is a great season, even though there's those 2 episodes in the middle. If something has a bad start, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad show. Like, most sitcoms are that way. The first episode of 30 Rock, which is my favorite sitcom of all time, has a terrible pilot. And so to have 2 bad episodes in a row, maybe they are able to turn it around. Who knows? But I also could be totally bullet headed, and this could go for another four episodes, and it's going to be more of me yelling at Adam.
Yeah. Well,
Hey, I know book series that don't get good till the 12th book, so it happens.
29, Bruce.
Do you think it might have been a better strategy to capture the audience by starting with a modern style sitcom and working backwards in style?
I think it would help with kids watching the show.
Yeah, I think that was at first when I saw this question, Bruce, I was just like, it sounds like kind of an easy, reductive way to do it, but it would be almost interesting to see that kind of go backwards. But I think I understand why they're going, kind of chronological, so to speak, in that it is really about, like I said, people from the 50s, 60s, and 70s going on, television getting more to represent, what the real world was, more or less.
I'm just going to say this. Like, if the first episode was a Friends homage, you don't know how many housewives would have been checking out Wanda and Vision just because they love Friends. They've already seen every episode.
And a weird thing,
true.
a whole bunch of kids, too, because kids love Friends these days. I don't know why it is.
My girls love Friends.
It's weird.
Love
Yeah,
it.
I told you on one of our Patreon hangouts how much my 10-year-old loves Friends, but also then the closer they come to extracting her, or the closer she comes from reaching whatever conclusion will be reached, the deeper she tries to bury herself in sitcoms. So we go back in time in terms of the style. I think that would have worked on a couple levels, but also it would have helped capture the audience on the first episode.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's certainly why we have 2 episodes going into it. At least that the kind of quote unquote, if you will, teaser for the end of things turning into color, and the set's changing each time. By the way, maybe not a lot of eagle-eyed people are kind of look at that, but the layout and set changes as the episodes go on. So, or at least so far it has.
That's where your cost came, production.
Yeah, well, a lot of it's just adding furniture and art
I
directing
think that
some
a,
stuff.
A 3-wall set isn't going to cost a fortune.
not like that. Final question, 30.
If this show was 26 episodes, I would quit this show. Would you?
I think if it was 26 episodes, we certainly wouldn't be doing it on a weekly basis. I can tell you that right now.
I know from experience that what I would do is I would stick it out for 24 episodes, and then like halfway through episode 25, I'd say I just can't take it anymore, and then I would leave.
Oh,
and
I've
then the
done that
last
kind of
episode
stupid-
would be great.
Yeah, I've done that before where it's just like, forget it. I quit. And well, to be honest with you, Walking Dead was that way. Like halfway through season 2, I was ready to give up. Then we find out what's in the barn, and I'm like, finally, we're going to be able to move on. 2 more episodes, and I was still bored, and I'm like, the hell with this show. I'm not watching anymore. And from what people say, there's a lot of really good stuff after that, but I sure as hell wasn't going to find out.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of really bad stuff after that good stuff.
So, bullet dodged, I guess.
Yeah, I have the proud distinction of having quit on The Walking Dead twice.
Ooh.
And I'll keep quitting on it, doggone it.
It's like Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Is that who they married twice?
Yeah.
And divorced twice.
Well, it does it for this week's episode of WandaVision 30 Questions, everybody. If you would like to get your questions on this show, the shorter and better and more precise, that would really help us out. Email those questions to WandaVision30q@gmail.com, and the best ones will make it on the show. Link will be in the show notes for that. So if you dig this show and you've got some, I got some pretty good news for you, because we got a lot of other podcasts that are somewhat similar to that. Bruce, where may they find more of your work on the internet?
Well, I already mentioned the YouTube channel. I would love to have more subscribers there. Just look for Bruce Leslie. You'll find me. But also you can go check out Mandalorian 30 Questions, The Boys 30 Questions. We got a lot of good stuff out there in this 30 Questions format.
Sean, what else?
Why don't you find me over at the Twitter? I'm at Sean Kovacs 4. Sweet Seansy from the internet! ! You want to talk to me directly? That's a good way to do it. People talk to me directly all the time from there.
You can tell him why he's wrong. Just tweet at him why he's wrong.
Exactly. Yell at me
if he's got a little bit of just go ahead. And of course, check out Hero Movie Podcast. We've been doing that one for 7 years, talking about superhero movies and TV shows all over the place. So check out Hero Movie Podcast wherever you find finer podcasts. That will wrap up this episode of WandaVision 30 Questions. Join us next week for another 30 questions for Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet. Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress, reminding you to forget the past. This is your future.
Well, since you put me down, I've been up to and in my head. I come in late at night and in the
wasn't that fun? That was your first episode of WandaVision 30 Questions. Thank you for listening to that here, but if you just listen to it here, please, for heaven's sake, go over and subscribe to us on whatever podcast device that you listen to. We'd really appreciate that, and review it as well, because much like the review we got at the top of this show, that's what kind of helps aggregate this thing along, and when people put in WandaVision into their little search bars there, we'll come up closer and closer to the top. So we appreciate that. No, but we can't end this episode out with just that. No, sir. We got to get to one of the most important things, and that is how this here television show relates one-to-one with Sylvester Stallone.
Thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Deborah Jo Rupp is best known as Kitty Foreman on that 70s show, but she's been acting since 1987 when she was on an episode of Spencer for Hire. And even back then, she looked like somebody's mom. I love Deborah Jo Rupp. She always plays the same person, but I really like that person, and I'm not hearing otherwise. She plays Mrs. Hart on WandaVision, and she plays a cute, sweet little old lady that has a sour, angry, balding man for a husband. Does that sound familiar? She's the episode Stallone connection this week because she made an appearance on the show This Is Us, which is a show, if you've never seen it, should totally rename itself Feelings the TV Show, because all anyone ever does on that show is just talk about each other's feelings for an hour. Stallone guested on the same show where he also talked about his feelings for about 10 minutes. I'm not even kidding. What I would like to talk about is Deborah Jo Rupp's most important role. She's played a lot of lovable characters over the years, but in 2006, she took a serious turn when she voiced the character of Belinda in a movie called Air Buddies.
Oh, yeah.
She would go on to work on Spooky Buddies and Super Buddies, all different roles, but she's still great in all three. And if I had to pick a favorite, I'd go with her stirring performance as Cal. Super Buddies.
Cow.
A movie I'm pretty sure we reviewed, but I can't remember because of all the drugs and the drinking. Deborah Jo Rupp seems custom fit for the Air Buddies franchise. An adorable little lady playing adorable animals being adorable. But here's the thing about Deborah Jo Rupp. She's a really good actor, like really, really good. And Hollywood is sleeping on having her make a heel turn. Think of her as like the female Bryan Cranston, a lady Breaking Bad, if you will. I have such a pitch for you all today. Here it goes. It's 1991. Deborah Jo Rupp plays Anna Goldwyn, a married, put-upon wife who finds out that her husband she's already too good for has been cheating on her. Instead of feeling bad for herself, she murders him by lacing a pumpkin pie with strychnine, and she dies in a terrible scene. He dies in a terrible scene where he figures out what's happened and tries to strangle her, but it's too late. He drops dead, falling face first in the pie. Anna cleans up the mess, gets away with it until somebody in the mob figures out what she's done and blackmails her. Become a murder for hire assassin, he says, or we tell the police what happened. Turns out Anna Goldwyn likes this line of work. It's exciting and it pays well. She meets interesting people, goes to exciting places, and occasionally she has to dress up as someone else. She quickly rises through the mob ranks and becomes a force to be reckoned with. Deborah Jo Rupp is someone you don't ever want to meet in a dark alley on a new show called Baking Bad on Showtime.
I'm in.
And there you have it, HMPers and dingalingers. This week's Stallone connection is none other than America's mom, Deborah Jo Rupp. Adam and Bruce, this is the 338th episode of this bit. Still no word from Sylvester Stallone.
I have a quick pitch for just a quick episode in that. We finally meet her sister, played by Yardley Smith.
Oh, excellent. Excellent.
They're very kind of the same sort of
so
lane
you got
there.
like one hot sister and one not so hot sister.
Yardley Smith. Which one's the hot one?
Deborah Jo Rupp, come on, man, get with the program. You think I watched that 70s show for the laugh track? No way.
No sirree, Bob. Well, that is it, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode of HMP. What are our plugs? You heard the WandaVision stuff. You know what the plugs are. So that's it. We'll see you next time. And we'll talk about what we're doing in the Dinger Zone here for next week, because I got a little something up my sleeve here. For Sweet Sean Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Hussey, I'm Adam Porkers. Stay super, everybody.
Goodbye, Marty and Evie.
I put a spell on you because